Let me introduce Michelle. As I mentioned, our next guest is Michele Barney, who serves as the Deputy Division Chief of the Administration Division of Alcohol Beverage Control. Michele Barney was appointed to the position of Deputy Division Chief of Administration in March of 2022. In this role, she oversees ABC's human resources, business management, and financial management branches at the Department of ABC Control. With over 17 years of experience in HR, she has extensive experience in performance management, transaction and disability management, classification and pay, recruitment, hiring, and exam. Everything that has to do with HR. Michele is the subject matter expert. So without further ado, Michele, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the time. Good morning, everybody. As Bobby mentioned, I'm with the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. I'm a member of the executive team and responsible for overseeing the branches that he mentioned. Today, I'm going to provide you with an overview of ABC and the efforts we do to promote inclusivity at our department. So a little bit about our department. So upon the repeal of Prohibition in 1933 and the return of the legal sale of alcohol beverages to California, taxation and regulation of the manufacture, distribution, and sale of alcohol beverages was given to the State Board of Equalization, BOE. In 1955, an amendment to the state constitution became effective, removing the duty of regulating the manufacture and sale of alcohol beverages from BOE and placing it with the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, which we refer to as ABC. ABC currently has 25 offices across the state, filled with sworn and non-sworn positions. The mission of ABC is to provide the highest level of equitable service and public safety to the people of the state through licensing, education, and enforcement. ABC is divided into three components: administration, licensing, and compliance. The licensing division is comprised of non-sworn licensing representatives and staff services managers responsible for the review and investigation of license application, to report on the moral character and fitness of applicants and the suitability of a premise where alcohol is to be conducted. The enforcement division, the compliance component, is comprised of peace officers with full peace officer authority under Penal Code 830.2. Agents perform undercover investigations of criminal and administrative violations committed on or about ABC licensed premises by licensees, their employees, and/or members of the general public. We have 210 authorized positions, sworn positions, and 328.75 non-sworn positions. Looking at ABC's overall workforce, 11.5% of employees with the department have a disability. This number represents our non-sworn positions. All classifications at ABC fall into 6 occupational groups. As of June 30th, the largest occupational group with disabilities was employees in computer math, business, and financial classifications, consisting of ABC's department-specific licensing rep positions and many of our administrative positions. As ABC continuously strives to create a diverse workforce, we look at opportunities to improve hiring people with disabilities in our legal and office and administration classifications. So what are we doing to promote inclusivity? ABC's EEO officer oversees the Reasonable Accommodation Program. Over the last 3 years, ABC has received about 16 documented reasonable accommodation requests. Although this number may be low in comparison to larger departments, as a small department, ABC actively works towards creating solutions to impress employee limitations at the lowest level, sometimes without a formal reasonable accommodation request. For example, ABC actively works with HR, business management, and IT to identify and order specialized equipment such as chairs, ergonomic keyboards and mouses, light covers, computer monitors, footrests, and other specialized items without requiring an employee to see a medical provider. ABC agents are required to complete a full 6-month Peace Officer Academy upon hire. The Academy provides agents with a full range of academic and physical testing and conditioning to prepare them to act as a peace officer in California. Within the training that they receive, agents learn about disability law, intellectual and developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, and mental illness. This training helps ensure our agents know how to interact and communicate with individuals that have disabilities. Our recruitment staff attend fairs in person and virtually across the state. At each fair, we share information on the LEAP process and encourage people to apply to the positions. At times, we do face some challenges with recruiting because our district offices have a small number of positions that don't have high turnover, so we may not have vacancies available at the time of the career fair. ABC actively reaches out to LEAP candidates to encourage them to apply to vacancies, even going beyond the 50 required contacts in ECOs. Our recruitment analyst in HR has attended forums and workshops with the Sacramento Employment and Training Agency, SETA, and Department of Rehabilitation, DOR, geared towards hiring people with disabilities. HR analysts actively work with applicants requesting reasonable accommodations for exams and consult with with hiring managers that have applicants requesting RAs for the interview process. Our business management branch has a designated reasonable accommodation coordinator that works directly with IT, HR, and EEO to purchase equipment needed to accommodate employees in the department. In our current fiscal year, the team has processed 14 reasonable accommodation purchases. The business management branch is responsible for taking the development and maintenance of accessible forms that are viewed and used by our external customers. Staff work directly with IT to complete a final accessibility check before any form is placed on the ABC website. So a little bit of information about our Disability Advisory Committee, our DAC. The purpose of this committee is to advise the director of any concerns or barriers that staff have identified in the workplace, recommend changes that may need to be implemented to ensure employees with disabilities have the same opportunities and access as other staff in the department. They maintain an internal network, currently 7 members on the DAC team, committed to addressing the needs of employees with disabilities, which requires careful planning, collaboration, and ongoing effort. They meet bi-monthly to share experiences, resources, and suggestions on how to improve the workplace. DAC members are a resource to our employees. They actively work towards increasing disability awareness by participating in forums such as this one to maintain awareness of best practices so they can be implemented within the department. They advocate to provide reasonable accommodations, and they promote an inclusive work environment to support one another and answer questions staff may have. In honor of the National Disability Awareness Month, ABC partnered with CHP and several other departments at the Capitol on October 10th in support of access for good jobs for all. ABC's EEO officer, Angela Schaefer, who attends this forum, our equity officer, Priscilla Laforte, and Agent Mendables had an opportunity to share our mission and individuals with people interested in gaining employment with ABC. ABC actively encourages employees to participate in the statewide disability survey each year. When a new employee begins at ABC, the EEO office sends them a welcome email with a link asking them to complete the survey. And throughout the year, the EEO office will send a notice to all employees encouraging them to update their disability status on the CalHR Disability Survey if their circumstances have changed over the years or if they decided not to complete the survey upon hire. Our goal is to increase the accuracy for our employee demographic data so we can actively work towards workforce planning goals. As we move into the next year, ABC is already planning ways to increase awareness and hiring people with disabilities. Some of our activities include attending the future Southern National Disability Awareness Month, because we do have half of our offices down south, developing a list of disability advocate groups HR could reach out to, encouraging people with disabilities to apply to our vacancies, and updating our workforce and succession plan so we can continuously hire a diverse workforce and develop internal resources to prepare for our future turnover. I'd just like to take a moment to thank Bobby for inviting me to participate in today's forum, and also thank all the members of the forum for continuously sharing their ideas and opportunities to improve representation of the state with employees with disability. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, please, if you have any question. By the way, Michelle, thank you so much for again, insightful presentation about ABC. I learned a lot.
Oh, good.
About your entity. I was curious about your comment when you said reasonable accommodation without a formal request, like if you become aware somebody needs some help in performing the essential functions, is that how you proactively go out and offer?
Yeah,
How does that work?
Yeah, we don't necessarily require them to go through all the hoops of going to go to their doctor to get a form. However, we do sometimes go through that process to make sure we're getting the proper equipment. But if it is things that could just make their life easier within their jobs, sometimes people have temporary disabilities, sometimes they have permanent. So it really depends on the situation, but we do try to take a proactive measure in ordering the equipment that might be needed to help them. It also reduces our workers' comp liability as well for people getting injured, and helps our employees from not getting injured in the future as well. So we do try to take, we're a small department. Like I mentioned, we have about 525 or so positions. So we are pretty close with one another, and we have an opportunity to really know each other and be able to have that open communication and comfortable relationship with them to be able to offer any assistance we can without having to go through all the paperwork. But
Great.
we do require them sometimes to go through it.
Another question came in the chat. Could ABC sworn employees be people with disabilities and be considered in the parity rate?
So good question. So our parity rate does not include employees with the peace officers for our positions. They do require to go, they have to be free of physical and mental disabilities to be a peace officer in the state. However, there is a portion, right? It depends on the position and what their tasks are. And so Cal HR performs a psychological and medical evaluation. And I'm sorry, they go through the medical evaluation with their own doctor, and Cal HR will review that medical paperwork and determine their fitness for a peace officer position. As you can see in some of the data that we do have peace officers with disabilities, though. So it might not be something that it might not be a physical ability that they can't perform and make sure that they're safe and that the community is safe as well, but they may have other disabilities that are acceptable.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think that the report number 5 in CalHR database, which talks about the disability parity rate, says that this will not include sworn or peace category. There's classification for that. And so the answer is no, the parity rate will not consider that particular peace officer's classification. And I think your parity rate is 11.5, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that. The other question I have is that you mentioned a lot about LEAP, promoting LEAP, hiring person with disabilities. How are you doing that in the advent of AB 313 and AB 1195, which now basically gives you tools to promote jobs specifically for LEAP hires? So in your particular department, how are you taking advantage of that?
Yeah, so what I mentioned is that we are currently going beyond the required LEAP contacts for our certification list. Most people are all electronic communication anyways these days, so it doesn't take much time to use to contact as many LEAP candidates as you can for those classifications that are available. We are also working with our recruitment team on creating a LEAP flyer. As I mentioned, we have that to go out to the career fairs that do have a variety of people that come and attend that. So it does provide them with the information on how to gain state employment and if they wanted to go through that process as well. We have had successful LEAP hires within our department. So we're kind of working with the DAC committee and trying to find ways and have encourage discussions around opportunities that could even include, some videos of people, right, having some, I'm trying to think of the word, doing some self-assessment videos, or how was their hire with the department and things like that. I've seen that at other departments, which seems encouraging. So we're really just trying to focus any effort we can. We don't have, as I mentioned, we have a lot of sworn positions, but our district offices are spread throughout the state. So that's probably our biggest challenge that we're faced with, because those offices may have 8 to 15 non-sworn positions. And And we're going to be looking at our department-specific classification, like our licensee representative position next year, to see what does that need. It is a safety position, so there are some requirements around that. But we are going to try to just continue our efforts to increase hiring people with a diverse workforce and disabilities.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Do we have any questions for Michele? If you have any questions, please unmute, ask your question, or post it in the chat. Another follow-up question, you mentioned something about the procurement. Is there a streamlined process for getting the equipment needed in a reasonable accommodation case within your entity? Or do you have to go through the normal procurement process, which sometimes could take a long time?
There is a priority for reasonable accommodation procurements. It's actually even required as part of the SAM manual. And so we do have, as I mentioned, like a procurement, an identified procurement coordinator for reasonable accommodations. We do move those above all others to make sure that we can do that, the purchase and get the equipment timely, so it doesn't affect them in any way. And then Angela, who is on the call right now, she also will engage with any employees that have identified that might be coming into the department that have identified that they need an accommodation. We will process and prepare that equipment so that they have it at the time of hire, so they're prepared to start in their position effectively.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Any other questions for Michele? Michele is an HR expert, so
I don't know about that.
I do have a follow-up question. Well, before I get to my question, it looks like somebody else has their hand raised. Carrie, go ahead, unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know why my video is not working today. Apologies. Michele, this question is for you, and also just putting it out to all of the DAC members and leaders here. Do you have any suggestions for how to establish and maintain active, enthusiastic participation in the DAC, especially in the hybrid work environment? I've seen, sometimes it's a struggle, and I don't know. Any suggestions are welcome.
Yeah, I'm actually not part of our DAC committee. However, I have been part of them in the past. Angela, I do work closely with Angela often. We discussed a lot of things before this. So it is very hard to get people to engage. It really depends on, you really need people that are wanting to make a change and that are always looking to improve things and process improvement. They have to usually have that mindset. But what I do find effective is when you do engage and have representation from other areas, and especially HR, because there's a lot involved with the hiring process, so that you can have those ideas and then also share ideas that come from the forums with the groups, maybe a newsletter so you can encourage other people within the department to apply to the DAC committee, or maybe there's terms within that so you have some rotation and new ideas and fresh input. Those would be maybe some suggestions just to how to keep people engaged and going through that, and probably having some discussion items within that. So you don't just kind of sit there and there really isn't too much to talk about. I would always share any of the forum information, and just maybe community things that you hear about or any events that they have any input on and how you can encourage people to apply. It can be very difficult to get people to want to be a part of a change or to even have a discussion with diversity or people with disabilities or about the topic. It could be sensitive to some people. So you really need those people that want to just continuously improve and need that encouragement. And if you can get buy-in from the top down, that's just going to help even more. And sharing more information maybe about the DAC committee. What's the time commitment? What should you expect? Maybe there's even some testimonials. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Some testimonials from some of the committee members, or from other members of the community. That might be good too. Maybe a speaker.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love that you partnered with other agencies to attend now I don't remember the name of it, but I saw the picture that you posted, and I'm just putting this out there to everyone. If there are other agencies where maybe we can do things together, different DACs from different agencies. I think that would be fantastic. So I'm open to that if anyone else is. And my email address is in the chat. So
Yeah, I
Thank
love that. I'm all about sharing resources. We're one entity, right? Really. We just have our own departments within it. So why reinvent the wheel if we don't need to? I bet you there's a lot of great resources and information out there.
There are two other questions came up here in the chat, and then I'm going to go to Lisa. The other question for you, Michele: do you happen to encourage required DAC membership to your LEAP and RA coordinators?
Angela's on the call. Angela, do you want to, are you there? Maybe you could speak on that.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you so much, Michele. Great presentation. Actually, our department is fairly small, as Michele identified, and I am the DAC coordinator and the RA coordinator, as well as the EEO officer. So we all collaborate to try to be effective in this area. Also, I'd just like to add for Carrie's question about trying to encourage involvement. What I found to be a little bit helpful as far as educating our employees is sending out a survey to see what they want to really hear about, what topics surrounding disability are of interest to them. And I found that at least, provides the education that they're looking for and encourages their participation. So that's just a tool that's worked for us.
Thank you. The second question is, can you expand on the 50 requiring ECOS that you mentioned in your presentation, please?
Yeah, so I'm overseeing HR now, but when I was in HR, I believe there was a 50 minimum requirement that you had to contact of LEAP when you had LEAP lists included. That was the minimum that you had to do. So again, it's not like we even have to mail out anymore. Even when you expand beyond 50 and 200, I mean, there's hundreds of people on there, depending on which list you're pulling from. So it takes just a click of a button to contact people. You might have 10 that you have to send in the mail. It's super easy, but it just gives you an opportunity to engage directly with those candidates and encourage them to know that those positions are out there. It is hard because a lot of people don't always look at their email and things like that. So the electronic process can affect that. But I would just talk with your HR if you're not part of HR and ask them how many they're currently contacting for LEAP lists, which you can find which positions are LEAP on CalHR's website. And then talk to them about what are they currently doing? Can we maybe increase that? And maybe you can measure it after you make some changes within your department, see how many LEAP hires you've had, and then measure that over the next 6 months to a year, every other year, and see if those efforts are increasing, how many people apply. And I know ECOS also has a report in ECOS that you can do. The EU officer can have it, but they do allow HR offices to have access to. You just have to ask CalHR. And I can't remember, I thought it had something on there if the candidate has disabilities. It won't tell you who, I think it just has information, but it does have demographic data for all your job controls, how many female, male, their demographics, things like that. So all that information is super helpful. And maybe you'll see an increase as you do that of how many people are actually applying to that with disabilities.
Great. Lisa, you have your hand up. Go ahead, unmute, ask your question.
Well, my question is, I just want to add to what Michele said about the newsletter and reaching out to yourself. Here at the at my agency, the Office of the State Public Defender, we send out a quarterly newsletter to all staff, and we have a DAC section in that newsletter. And we share information about awareness months in our section. We've also done testimonials from staff who have family members with various disabilities. Like we did a testimonial during the month of autism and the autistic spectrum, and we had staff members share personal, family members that were on that spectrum. We also, we promote other state agencies like the Department of Aging that offers a lot of resources, and like the CalAble program. So we have a small DAC committee too. Mine is probably too shy of ABC. We probably got about 5 members, but we believe that even though our membership is low, we feel that the information we're putting out to staff is helpful. Also, when we have new hires starting, we give them information on the DAC. That's part of our hiring packet. So these are just some suggestions to the other agencies that, may help to increase your DAC membership. These are things we do at my agency, and I just wanted to put that out there to everyone and share.
I think that's great, Lisa. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
You can
Thank you,
probably
Lisa.
even-
That was a very good question and really appreciated that. One thing I want to highlight that Michele said, that she mentioned something about, the leadership buy-in, making sure that there is some discussion about, from the leader of the organization that you belong to, promoting DAC, promoting LEAP, promoting disability awareness and overall inclusiveness within that. That really helps a great deal of notoriety coming from the leader of the organization. So thank you for highlighting that, Michele. Any other question for Michele? Well, I don't see another question, but you've been very generous with
Thank you.
responding to all the Q&As. Is there anything you like to add before you leave?
Nope, just keep doing the good fight, and trying to get the representation out there, and just trying to come up with new ideas. Share with the community that you have. We have so many resources out there. I'm all about making connections. I'll put my email in there. Angela, you can probably put your email in there, and we can, if anybody has any questions or wants to have that discussion, more than happy to have that. We're all working together towards the same goals. So thank
Great.
you so much.
Thank you so much, Michele, and happy holidays.
You too.